Magandang
Hoy, naririto ako, sheepdog na laging handa, kalmado totoo, sa gitna ng ingay at bulong-bulungan. Tahimik akong nakatingin, may tiyak na patnubay. Ako'y galing sa kumpas ng konsensya at katwiran, handang kumilos kung kinakailangan. Marami malumiko at puro dramatiko, buo pa rin ang loob ko, di madaling matinag. Subalit andyan si Lobo, matindi ang laro, Machiavellian. Wika niya sa titulo, labanan natin ang fake news. Ang fake news, ang tila sigaw sa dulo ng usapan, kapwa naman ang sumisigaw. Sheepdog at Lobo, magkaibang kagayan, buong buhay kong inihanda. Sanay sa kadiliman, handa kong harapin ang pangilan ng ahas. At kung aking katapusan ay kagat ng lobo, buong loob kong tinatanggap. Sanay sa anino, ngunit di tulad mo. Sa akin ang dilim may pagsubok, hindi kasangkapan mo. Di ko kailangan ng panlilinlang para umangat, pagkat ang tunay na malakas ay hindi takot sa liwanag. Paulit-ulit lang mga pagbakong hungkag, tulad ng hangin sa dagat. Ngunit ang tubig di laging tahimik sa ilalim. Sa tamang oras ang alon di na ibabangon. Sheepdog at Lobo, magkaibang kagawian, buong buhay kong inihanda. Sanay sa kadiliman, handa kong harapin ang pangilang kurap. At kung aking katapusan ay kagat ng lobo, buong loob kong tinatanggap. Sheepdog, sheepdog, ito ang landas. Lobo, lobo, may hangganan ka rin sa bawat patalim na iyong hinasa. May pusong di kayang baliin ng daya. Sheepdog at Lobo, magkaibang kagawian, buong buhay kong ihanda. Sanay sa kadiliman, handa kong harapin ang pangilang kurap. At kung aking katapusan ay kagat ng lobo, buong loob kong tinatanggap. Sheepdog, sheepdog, ito ang labanan. Lobo, lobo, tapos na ang laro. Sa anino ng huling halakhak, ang matibay ay di kayang patumbahin ng tuso.
Yo, shoutout sa inyo, shoutout. Utang muna yung shoutout natin, ha? Shoutout muna. Shoutout muna sa inyo lahat. At ito na tayo kay purest form of money is Bitcoin. Tama, gusto ko lang pakita sa inyo. Wala daw due process. How the SC sabotaged the Constitution. That's a bold claim, dude. That's a bold claim, Bitcoin guru. Tingnan natin ang argumento mo. Sige nga. For some reason, Bitcoin guru. How the SC sabotaged the Constitution. Alam ko na. Naalala ko. Oo nga pala, marami
Mabilis
nga. marami nga pala siyang mga katangahan na sinasabi sa mundo, no? Ito. Hanapin natin. Ito.
Not to the government, because as we know, people are fallible, people make mistakes. Into a fiscal and monetary, Alameda, Voyager, they're all centralized. And that's the basic problem. Government is dipping their hands into a fiscal and monetary system that they know nothing about. Bitcoin
They don't know nothing about. Law expert na rin ngayon. Ulit lang.
is into a fiscal, and that's the basic problem. Government is dipping their hands into a fiscal and monetary system that they know nothing about.
Okay. Pero, is he going to prove it? Of course not! The goal is not to make sense. Okay? Puro assertion lang with confidence. Parang ganito. Parang ganito. Teka. Alam mo, ito si Kristan, lahat ng bagay nakuha niya lang sa confidence, walang brains. Okay? Bakit? Ito, pakita ko rin sa inyo. Saan na ba 'yun?
Yeah.
Ito. Ito.
Girls in the metro. Some of the shooting locations were Eastwood, Intramuros, Boracay, Lasal Taft, Ateneo, UP Diliman, and Moraita. Girls who were deemed eye-catching received a rose from the host, one of which was future financial coach and political vlogger Chris Tan.
Future financial?
One of which was future financial coach and
Future financial coach. FFC. And
political vlogger.
Political vlogger. So, Bitcoin is the purest form of money. Future financial coach who doesn't even know what money is. What makes money? Salamat, San Gadnika. My goodness.
Chris Tan. This is then followed by the host asking for a cheek kiss, punctuated by the titular celebratory "Yeah, boy," and the flashing of a shaka.
Yeah, boy!
Yeah, boy.
The problem with this is twofold. Putting women on the spot to ask for a kiss isn't exactly giving them an option. In some extreme cases,
Di ba? Amazing! Puro confidence. Yun lang yung nadala niya. Utak, walang kasama. Pakinggan na natin. Marami kang, yeah boy! Marami kang kailangan i-prove. Wala daw due process. How the Supreme Court sabotaged the Constitution. We're interested. Go.
Sa kaalaman ng lahat, we did a previous ng Supreme Court kung bakit daw unconstitutional yung pag-file ng impeachment complaint against Sara Duterte ng ating Kongreso dahil daw nilabag yung due process.
Nilabag daw yung due process Okay. May pagkaman, kiss, beso, kapalit ng rose. Di ba?
Ni Sara Duterte. Okay? Now, para sa kaalaman ng lahat, we did a previous video talking about yung
Hindi ko pa na napanood. Samahan ko kayo. Panoorin natin, ha?
kung sinabi ng Supreme Court regarding sa first reason nila kung bakit unconstitutional yung articles of impeachment dahil daw nilabag daw yung 1-year bar rule ng Constitution.
Okay.
And if you want the full recap of that, you can just click the link here. Ilalagay ko this na. Hence, a nuanced approach is warranted to remain faithful to the purpose of the 1-year bar. Given the impossibility of initiation due to the House's inaction and adjournment of its term,
This dude told everyone that he put all his money in Bitcoin. Totoo ba? Send mo yung link.
1-year bar should be recognized from the initiation of the impeachment complaint if unacted upon or when it is dismissed if it has been partially acted upon. The
Okay.
1-year bar may also start to commence upon the violation of the fundamental rights of the respondent, which ousts the House or the Senate of jurisdiction.
Okay.
So, layman's terms, ito yung sinabi dito.
Sige nga, tingnan natin, layman.
Sinasabi dito na para daw maging faithful to the purpose of the 1-year rule, kasi daw hindi daw naumpisahan o hindi inaksyonan ng ating Kongreso yung mga na-file na impeachment complaints o kaya dinismiss daw nila or partially acted upon, kailangan daw gumawa ng bagong rule na ang initiation daw ng impeachment complaint
No. That's not what it means. Tamo? Layman. Ito, layman. Yung mismong 1-year bar rule is just an instrument to avoid circumventing the 1-year bar rule. To avoid harassing the officer. Okay? Now, kapag yung sa Francisco is initiated, deemed initiated. Now, tandaan, instrument yung 1-year bar rule. Okay? Now, kapag ka pinigil mo at winidhold mo na dumating siya sa tamang course niya, pinigilan mo, deliberate inaction, that's actually rigging the system as well, which is the purpose of the 1-year bar rule. Yun.
will start when it has been filed instead of when it is filed and then referred
No.
to the rule na ang initiation daw ng impeachment complaint will start o kaya dinismiss daw nila or partially acted upon, kailangan daw gumawa ng bagong rule na ang initiation daw ng impeachment complaint will start when it has been filed instead of
Sinungaling ka. Nasaan yun? Nasaan yun when it has been filed? When it has been filed? Nasaan yun? Wala yun nakalagay doon. Nasaan? Apakasinungaling nitong taon to. Kaya nagtataka ako ba't may naniniwala dito lalo na sa Bitcoin eh. Nasaan sinabi yon? Basahin mo.
impeachment complaint will
Tamo
start
yung binasa niya, wala doon yung sinabi na sa filing nag-start. Oh.
when it na ang initiation daw ng impeachment complaint will start when it has been filed instead of when it is filed and then referred to the Committee on Justice.
Oh, tanga. Tanong ko sa'yo. Yung third mode ba? Second mode? Yung direct filing, 1/3. Nasaan na Committee on Justice doon? So, saan nag-initiate? Sa filing. Pili ka. Saan nag-initiate? Walang sinabi sa Supreme Court tungkol dyan. In-acknowledge sila yung Francisco. Katulad na sinabi ni Escudero, you can reconcile it with inaction and action. Saan sinabi na sa filing daw? Saan sinabi yon? Apakasinungaling nitong taon to.
So in other words, sinasabi nila dito na binabago nila.
Hindi nila sinasabi! Hindi nila sinasabi na binabago nila. Po, dyan, saan na ba yung ano? Saan may concurring opinion dito? Ito yata. Tingnan natin kung nandito ah. Apakasinungaling itong mga to, no? Ito ba yan? Hindi ito yun. Tama ba? Francisco. Walang Francisco. Lopez. Sayang po ang laway po ninyo sa tao na yan. Okay lang. Trabaho natin, nasayangin yung mga laway natin sa mga bobong katulad nito. Ito. 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 Si Lopez, Justice Lopez. As can be gleaned from the constitutional provision, there are 3 modes of initiating an impeachment. The filing of verified complaint by a member of the House of Representatives, first mode. B. The filing of a verified complaint by a citizen upon the endorsement by any member of the House of Representatives, second mode. And C. The filing of a verified complaint resolution of impeachment filed by at least 1/3 of all members of the House of Representatives. Okay? Importantly, Francisco Jr., House of Representatives, Francisco Jr. explains when an impeachment proceeding is initiated. From the records of the Constitutional Commission to the amicus curiae briefs of 2 former constitutional commissioners, it is without a doubt that the term to initiate refers to the filing of the impeachment complaint coupled with Congress taking initial action of the said complaint. Initial action, right? Initial action, okay? For the first 2 modes, which are found in article blah blah blah, the House Justice completes the initiation. This is because Section 3 provides verified complaint for impeachment filed by any member of the House of Representatives first mode or by any citizens. Okay na yan, alam niyo na, shall be referred to the proper committee. Thus, this referral is the level of involvement explicitly required of the House of Representatives by the Constitution. Imperatively, Francisco Jr. clarifies the 2 necessary steps for initiation under the first and second modes. Neither is the impeachment proceeding initiated when the deliberates on the resolution passed to its committee prior proceeding, that is initiation beginning, rather proceedings initiate or begins with a verified complaint, is filed and referred to the Committee on Justice for action. Yan yung Francisco, right? Thus, it is clear that the involvement of the House of Representatives in taking initial action on verified complaint under the first and second modes referred to the Committee on Justice. Sinabi, di ba? Is essential for initiation to take place. Meanwhile, the third mode, blah, blah, blah. The verified complaint or resolution shall already constitutes article of impeachment. Okay. So, ibig sabihin yung filing lang. Filing lang. Okay. Let's go. Okay na yan. Verified complaint, Committee on Justice, thereafter, hearing take by the majority vote. On the other hand, third mode doesn't need such referral because it was directly filed by at least 1/3 of all members. In effect, it already met such requirement from the beginning. Sunod. Therefore, the conclusion of Francisco Jr. becomes clear that some level of involvement of the House of Representatives is necessary for initiation to take place. But the level of involvement differs as to the modes chosen. Thus, concluded, okay na yan. Ito, inulit ha. Okay na yan. Second mode. Okay. Here, as found by the ponensya, si Leonin, the House of Representatives met the requirement of putting the matter in order of business within 10 session days. However, they were not referred to the Committee on Justice and voted upon by the plenary body of the House, as required by the Constitution or House Rules on Impeachment. This is because the 19th Congress has already declared final adjournment of its session on Feb 5, 2025. with the 3 impeachment cases having been archived. More, on the same day, the 4th impeachment complaint was also endorsed to the Senate. Ayan na. Malinaw. Ayan yung reason. This is because the 19th Congress had already declared the final adjournment of its session on Feb 5, 2025. So, hindi na maaktuhan. Okay. To determine the effect of non-referral, ito yung point. Ito yung nasa negative. Yung kanina, deemed initiated, will trigger the 1-year bar rule. Okay? Now, ini-explain dito. To determine the effect of non-referral of the impeachment complaint to the Committee on Justice, pertinent provisions of the Constitution must be examined for the first and second modes of impeachment. Be included in the order of business, which is nangyari naman, right? And referred to the Justice Committee on Justice within 3 session days thereafter. Yan ha. Hindi na refer. Next. As a rule, the term shall is a word of command that must be given compulsory meaning. The word shall signifies the one has a duty to, more broadly, to required to. Yan ha. Yan. Gonzales versus Chavez. Next. Okay na yan. Consequently, there is no room for any discretion in this constitutional requirement. Importantly, De Castro, yan. Basahin nyo lang yan. May hinahanap ako ditong mapapaboom ka. Verily, the Constitution itself imposes an explicit and unambiguous limitation on the House of Representatives initiating an impeachment proceeding. This clear limitation deals with the deadlines that must be complied with. Kaya nga may 10-3 eh. So, kailangan mo sundin yon. Shall. Okay? This contrasts with subsequent impeachment complaints where one impeachment complaint was already filed and referred to the Committee on Justice. Okay na yan. Basahin nyo lang yan. Ito, the effect of this adjournment should not prejudice the subject public official in waiting for a complete action of the House of Representatives. Thus, in cases where a particular batch of the House of Representatives has already ended their term, and where that particular Congress ends, the act of not referring an impeachment complaint to the appropriate committee, specifically to the Committee on Justice, would constitute the initial action. Hindi ibig sabihin inaction is hindi na yun action. Di ba? Yun nga yung pinopoint dito na Supreme Court. Yun yung point, deliberately withhold it. So ayan yung initial action, withhold it. Ulitin natin na. The effect of this adjournment should not prejudice Thus, in cases where a particular batch of the House of Representatives has already ended their term, and where that particular Congress ends, the act of not referring an impeachment complaint to the appropriate committee, specifically the Committee on Justice, would constitute the initial action contemplated by the Constitution for purpose of determining that an impeachment proceeding has been duly initiated. Ano sinasabi mo dyan? Sa filing. Hindi sa filing. Sa inaction. Then nag-expire yung Congress, nag-adjourn. 1v1 debate mo nga si Kristan, idol, parang di ka baste. Tanga ka ba? Ako nga yung naghahamon dyan. Siya sabihin mong baste, bobo. Sabihin mo ha. Intayin ko. Ako nang matagal na ako naghahamon dyan. Tingnan mo yung mga previous na content. Ako naghahamon dyan, bobo. Bobo ka kasi, yung tulo kasi, umakit na dito yung yung epekto sa ulo mo. Minom ka pinisilin kasi. O kung ano man yung gamot doon. Bobo ka talaga. Umakit na sa utak yung kabobohan mo. Hintayin ko ha. Hintayin ko ha. Kapag hindi siya pumalag, basti siya, tapos basti ka rin, bobo ka ha. Pilitin mo. Ang tagal. Iintayin ko ha. Oh, hanggat hindi ka umano, hanggat di pumapayag 'yon. Send mo nga maayos na letter, Bok. Ano nga, ikaw magsabi, bilis. Hinamon ko na 'yan. Oh, hide mo 'yan. Oh. Hindi ka babalik dito hanggat hindi mo nayayaya sa debate 'yan dito ha. Oh, dun lang gagawin pa kitang moderator pag napapayag mo. Okay? Ito deal. Hindi ka makakabalik dito, bobo ka. Kasi may tulo ka, gamutin mo muna. Hindi ka makakabalik dito hanggat di mo na mapapayag yan si Kristan na makipag-debate sa akin. Pag napapayag mo, gagawin pa kitang moderator. Okay? G. Okay. Let's go. The receipt and retention of the verified complaint by the House of Representatives coupled with the lapse of the constitutionally mandated period without compliance with the ministerial duties prescribed under circumstance of a final adjournment of Congress. Mali yung ano. Oh. Maayos na letter. Maayos na letter. Pucha, Bitcoin guru, maayos na letter. Wow! Nagbigay na ako ng public challenge. Debate tayo. Kristan, tungkol dito. Gusto mo? Oh. Pati dun sa sa crime rate mong katarantaduhan. Meron pa dito. Malinaw kanina ha. Ito ha. Oh, ito. Thus, in cases where a particular batch of the House of Representatives has already ended their term and where that particular Congress ends, the act of not referring an impeachment complaint to the appropriate committee, specifically the Committee on Justice, would constitute the initial action. Ang point lang doon, hindi tungkol sa Committee on Justice. Filed, verified na filing endorsed by a member and the Congress taking initial action. Which is sinama sa order of business, right? Okay. Ano nangyari ng Feb 5? In-archive. Hindi dumating doon sa tamang pupuntahan niya. Yun yung sinasabi dito. Teka, meron pa dito. Ito. More critically, the 10 and 3 session day rule, ayan na, rule, prevents what amounts to passive nullification of the impeachment power. By creating automatic consequences for legislative silence, the Constitution ensures that the House cannot govern through strategic inaction. The Constitution ensures that the House cannot govern through strategic inaction. A form of constitutional avoidance that would effectively render the impeachment mechanism nugatory. Ayan nyo. The session day calculation, okay na yan. Any unfinished business in the House of Representatives doesn't carry over to the new Congress. Pa dito. Meron dito yan eh. May malupit-lupit pa dito bukod dun eh. The inclusion of the one-year bar rule in the 1987 Constitution was adopted by the framers to serve two principal objectives. Ano yun? First, to shield high-ranking public officials from undue harassment through successive impeachment attempts. And second, to to preserve the legislature's capacity to fulfill its primary constitutional mandate of enacting laws by preventing undue diversion of its time and resources toward repeated impeachment proceedings. Okay na yan. Oh. Eto. Ito. Sasabihin nyo, hindi binanggit. O eto, puro Francisco nga tinira dyan. Puro ang nilatag dyan, puro Francisco. Eto. Notably, in Francisco Jr., this court clarified when an impeachment proceeding is deemed initiated for purposes of applying the 1-year bar rule. Eto na tayo, andito na yon. Natandaan ko na to, ito na yun. Ulitin natin ha. O. Halinaw ha, si Knight Francisco. Notably, in Francisco, this court clarified when an impeachment proceeding is deemed initiated for purposes of applying the 1-year bar rule. Ito yon. Okay na yan. Father Bernas explains that in these two provisions, the common verbs to initiate, the object in the first... Okay na yan. Ato, in Francisco Jr., this court categorically held that the term initiate as used in Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 5 of the 1997 Constitution requires the filing of a verified impeachment complaint and taking a formal action upon it. Ito. The term initiate as used requires the filing of a verified impeachment complaint and the taking of a formal action upon it. Yun yung buong point nila. In other words, the act of filing must be accompanied by a step to set the impeachment process in motion. Consequently, once an impeachment complaint has been initiated, another impeachment complaint may not be filed against the same official within 1-year period. The ruling in Francisco was also upheld. Ayan na. The ruling in Francisco was also upheld in Gutierrez House of Representatives, where this court underscored that initiation refers to the filing of the impeachment complaint coupled with Congress taking initial action of the said complaint. Kasi yung Congress, pag ni-refer sa Committee on Justice, that's actually taking initial action. The initial action taken by the House on the complaint is the referral of the complaint to Committee on Justice. Yun nga. Yun yung sinabi ko. That initiation that means the filing, referral of an impeachment complaint remains consistent with the rationale of the constitutional provision. Okay, diretso. Okay na yan. Okay na yan. Yan yung ano. Yan yung tungkol sa framer, yung in conjunction with 1973, blah, blah, blah. Second, indeed, essentially, 1/3 serves as a balance point. One that is high enough to prevent baseless complaints. Be that is may, impeachment is sui generis process. Distinct. Okay na yan. Okay na yan. In addition to the right due process, the Constitution guarantees the right speedy disposition of case under... Yeah, that's true. Okay na yan. Meron dito consequently, direct transmittal of the fourth impeachment complaint to the Senate on the same day, the first 3 complaints were archived without referral to the appropriate committee, effectively initiated the second impeachment. Tama. Ayan Consequently, the direct transmittal of the fourth impeachment complaint to the Senate on the same day, the first 3 complaints were archived without referral to the appropriate committee, effectively initiated a second impeachment proceeding against Vice President Duterte. In a clear contravention, blah, blah, blah. Okay na yan. Ay, ba't baliktad to? Ay, gagi, hindi rin sa kanya. Pero tinakal niya din pala. So, naguluhan ako. Sino ba yon? Basta yon. Sino ba yon? Sino ba yung mga nabasa ko? Sa Alameda. Okay. Titingnan natin. Hanapin natin para dito sa, ano na to? Sa guru. Sa Bitcoin guru na to. Francisco. Ito. Sakto. Ito. Francisco has determined that initiation takes place by the act of filing a referral or endorsement of the impeachment complaint to the House Committee on Justice. O, okay na yan. Defining to initiate Francisco distinguish impeachment case from impeachment proceeding. Okay? Okay. Okay na yan. In-explain din niya na yan. Sinite din. Okay? Ito. Ito. The ponensya, meaning Justice Leonen, took Francisco's determination of initiation further. Hindi niya binago. Pinush niya pa. Okay. It ruled that the inaction of the House of Representatives in the 19th Congress led to the effective termination of the 3 impeachment complaints and commenced the running of the 1-year bar. Under the Francisco definition of initiation, the first 3 impeachment complaints filed under Section 3, ano ba yan? Paragraph 2 ba yan? Have not been initiated because there was no referral to the House Committee on Justice. Ayan yun ha. As the first 3 impeachment complaints did not initiate any impeachment case, the 4th impeachment complaint was not placed under 1-year bar. It is the 4th impeachment complaint filed under Section 3, Paragraph 4, that initiated the impeachment proceedings. Okay. Eto. The ponensya took Francisco's determination of initiation further. It ruled that the inaction of the House is the inaction, of the House of Representatives in the 19th Congress led to the effective termination of the 3 impeachment complaints and commenced the running of the 1-year bar. Sabi niya, I concur with the ponensya's refinement of Francisco's determination of initiation. Sino may sabi nagbago? Sabi binago, di ba? Di ba sinasabi ito mga propagandistang to, binago daw? Sinabi ito, ni-refine pa. As a result, I likewise agree with the ponensya's conclusion that the termination of the 3 impeachment complaints barred the 4th impeachment complaint and the Senate did not acquire jurisdiction to constitute itself into an impeachment court. Not only that, yun na yata yun. Yan na nga yun. Ito. Different facts. Ito. As we are confronted with a different set of facts, we find that rigid application of our previous pronouncements. Ayun, ito na yun. Ito. Kasi, in-explain yung nangyari doon sa Francisco. Okay? At the outset, it is imperative to state the verbal legis rule must be observed, blah, blah, blah. No law, these court rulings, ito. When this court, ito, in-explain mismo. When this court issued its rulings in Francisco, we formulated the definition of initiation. Ayan na, ina-address mismo. To prevent the first impeachment complaint filed before the House of the Representatives from immediately qualifying as the bar to forestall any impeachment complaint. An initiated impeachment complaint required the conjunction of the filing of a complaint and a referral of such complaint to the Committee on Justice. Okay, ito yung paliwanag. We assume that future events would run their usual course. See? Yun yung point. Kasi ang ina-expect nila, dire-diretso yung 10-3. Include mo sa order of business and then refer mo sa 3 sa Committee on Justice. Yun yung inaasahan nila na mangyayari as normal. Ngayon, kaya sila nag-formulate ng definition. Ngayon, ito sabi, we did not foresee a situation where the operation of the one-year bar would be triggered, effectively preventing a first impeachment complaint from finishing these required steps. Ulitin natin, ito yung hinahanap ko mismo. And explain mismo. Ha? An initiated impeachment complaint required. Okay na yan. We assume that future events would run their usual course. The usual course is, sa first mode, magpa-file, verified, endorsed by a member. I-include ngayon sa order of business sa 10 session days ba yon? Calendar o ano man yon. Tapos, after nun, i-refer sa Committee on Justice. Yun yung assumption. Isipin ba naman nila na may mga kriminal na mag-withhold? Eto, we did not foresee a situation where the operation of the one-year bar would be triggered, effectively preventing a first impeachment complaint from finishing these required steps. Why? Ito lang ang argumento dyan, napakasimple. Ano yung rason kung bakit hindi natuloy sa usual course? Yun lang ang kailangan nyo sagutin. Ang pinaka-valid nyo lang na sagot is what? Sham. Sham yung first 3 complaints. That is the only valid answer. Anything beyond that is actually a deliberate inaction. Strategical inaction. Ang tanong lang dito, sobrang dali, Kristan. Ano yung rason kung bakit hindi nagtuloy-tuloy sa tamang proseso niya yung first 3 complaints? Yun lang ang kailangan yung sagutin. At wala kayong mabibigay na justified na reason. Lahat na sasabihin nyo, either absurdity or intellectual dishonesty. Yun lang yung tanong. Bakit? We assume that the future events would run their usual course. That's the assumption. It will run sa usual course niya. Question. Bakit hindi nangyari yung usual course? Ang valid lang na reason, because it's sham. It's a sham. Hindi siya form or substance. As we are confronted with a different set of facts, either hindi naiintindihan, ayaw intindihan, or talagang bias lang. As we are confronted with a different set of facts, we find that a rigid application of our previous pronouncement do not facilitate the intended purpose of the 1-year bar. Again, it's about the purpose. Si Salameda to, ha? We find that a rigid application of our previous pronouncements do not facilitate the intended purpose of the 1-year bar, which are to prevent undue or too frequent harassment and to allow Congress to accomplish its principal task of legislation. As the ruling stand, there is nothing to prevent this gap from being exploited. Ayon! You exploited that gap. Isipin mo, dapat usual course. Ministerial lang yung gagawin mo lang. Order of business, include mo, and then after that, after send mo sa Committee on Justice, yun yung dapat gawin. Withhold mo. One may conceivably rely on the current interpretation of initiation in a subsequent ministerial referral to instigate the filing of a clearly defective impeachment complaint to put the 1-year bar into effect. Sinubukan yung mandugas against the spirit of nung law nung hindi kayo pinayagan, kayo pagalit, tigas ng muka. We find ourselves at the interstices. Intersect ba yan? Once again, to seek solutions to mend this gap. There's a gap. Hindi nila, ang inaayos nila, yung gap. Hindi nila binabago yung ruling. Tamo ha? Nakafocus ka sa to initiate. Nakafocus yung Supreme Court sa 1-year bar rule. 1-year bar rule can go either way. Right? Tambakan ka na marami, sobrang daming impeachment. Halimbawa, ganito gawin natin. Ito yung mga facts of the case. Boom! Ito yung mga ebidensya. Gusto ko sa underground magkaroon ng pagalingan, competition to actually write a pleading para i-impeach si VP Sara. At ang dami So, mili ka, this is good. This is good. Okay. Elimination. Okay. Una, merong 500 nagpasa para manalo. Ngayon, in-eliminate nyo. Naging 100 na lang. Tapos, pagdating sa plenaryo, pagdating sa order of business, 100. Pinili yung winner. My goodness, yun mismo yung mangyayari. It is realized that a ministerial referral produces the same result as a first to file initiation. Ayun, explain naman dito. It is realized that a ministerial referral produces the same result as a first-to-file initiation. They both leave the act of initiation to the complainants and ignore the constitutional mandate that the House of Representatives has the exclusive power to initiate all cases of impeachment. O, ito yung point dito. Ang point dito kasi is ginagamot yung tungkol sa initiation. Kasi dapat yung House ang may kapangyarihan to actually initiate. Ngayon kasi, kapag sinabi kasi sa filing, nagsimula sa filing, ang kapangyarihan to initiate is nando sa complainant. Wala sa House. Tama? Kaya nga, kailangan i-verify, endorse, and then i-refer. Ngayon kasi yung point, right? Kasi ang point dito, ginawa nila yon, right? Ginawa nila yon. The issue is, okay, kung susundin natin yung sa ano ng framers na to file, yun yung definition. So, ibig sabihin, wala sa House ang power to initiate impeachment. Nasa complainant. Tama? Tama? So ngayon, kaya kailangan nilang gawin yon. Kailangan ma-refer, kailangan ma-verify, lahat-lahat na yon bago sabihing initiated. Tama nga naman. Pero, yung reverse ang problema. Walang problema lahat sa complaint. You verified it and endorsed. Ready for transmittal. And you withheld it. Thus, we are called to examine the Constitution's provisions, this Court's relevant pronouncement on the impeachment process and their impact on the factual situation before us. The referral of the House impeachment complaint to the Senate terminated the first 3 impeachment complaints and effectively prevented their initiation. Ayan. Meron pa yan dito. Ganda ng pagka-in-explain, no? The Constitution clearly intended the House of Representatives to act on a verified impeachment complaint within a given period. It expressly provided the number of session days when a specific act must be done or accomplished. Out of the 5 enumerated steps above, case law tells us, yan, ano na yan, okay na yan. Okay na, basahin nyo na lang dyan. The House of Representatives found itself in a situation where it could no longer validly act on the 3 impeachment complaints after Feb 5. The ponensya illustrated the effect of the concept of a session day to show Feb 5 was a 10th session day for the inclusion of the 3 impeachment complaints in order of business. On the same date as the transmittal of the 3 impeachment complaints to the House Speaker, members of the House of Representatives attended the caucus to sign another impeachment complaint. A total of 215, blah, blah, blah. Ito na yun. All 4 impeachment complaints were read in the additional reference of business. Lahat yun magkakasama, pero different modes. Isa sa mga argumento nila eh. The transmittal of the 4th complaint to the Senate used by the House of Representatives justified the archival of the first 3 impeachment complaints. At this point, any action on the first 3 impeachment complaints would already be beyond the constitutionally mandated 10 session days for inclusion in order of business. Ito na yan. Ito na yan. See, puro yun yung pinuntahan nila lahat, di ba? Okay na. Diretso na tayo dito kay ano. Tingnan natin sinungaling ka eh. Napakasinungaling itong taon to. Hindi binago. May gap, pinlag nila yung loophole, yung gap na yon. Sinungaling ka. Binding pa rin yung Francisco. Tanga.
Injustice. So in other words, sinasabi nila dito na binabago nila ang pag-interpret ng konstitusyon.
Ha? Binabago nila ang pag-interpret ng konstitusyon? Ha? Anong kabubuhan to, Kristan?
Na binabago nila Committee on Justice. So in
Oh.
other words, sinasabi nila dito na binabago nila ang pag-interpret ng konstitusyon.
Bobo? Binasa ko, ang dami, oh. Syunga. Grabe. Hanilet. Grabe, Hanilet. Nagsama pa sila ni Gib. Grabe to, gagi. Kaka-Bitcoin mo yan. Tsaka
Dahil daw, hindi daw inaksyonan kasi ng ating Kongreso in time yung 3 impeachment complaints.
Oh! Eh, di ba pasok sa due process yun?
Pero mali nga yun dahil number 1, gumawa sila ng bagong interpretasyon ng initiate or initiation instead of being
No, hindi! Hindi sila gumawa ng ganon! Sinasabi nga, there's no initiation to speak of. Apakasinungaling mo. Ilang beses sinabi yan. Oh, anak ng tokwa. Apakasinungaling itong taon to. La, hindi ma-search. Ang sinabi, there is no initiation to speak of. Yun nga yung buong point. Apakasinungaling itong mga to. To. This pronounces in Francisco is not applicable to the factual circumstances of this case. At the risk of being too repetitive, I espouse the view that since there was no initiation to speak of, ayan, magbasa ka! Yan ang problema. Halatang halata, yung mga taon, dada ng dada, hindi pinapakita. Bakit? Kasi mauhuling kasinungalingan nila. Mauhuli yung propaganda nilang Bitcoin. Ay, hindi, yung ano, sa impeachment. Oh. Meron pa. Ito. Oh. Oh. Duterte are innocent. Inedit. Ha? Para lang i-character assassinate si Justice Leonen. Ganito kalupit. Oh. Oh. Kristan, sinungaling ka o eto, at the risk of being too repetitive, I espouse the view that since there was no initiation to speak of as contemplated by Francisco, but rather the withholding of the first 3 impeachment complaints until they were archived on Feb 5, 2025. And the swift adoption of the 4th impeachment complaint. There was an attempt by the House to circumvent the 1-year bar rule. thus effectively rendering it to be operative. Sinungaling kayo. Apakasinungaling nyo, mahiya naman kayo. Pati Supreme Court, dinamay nyo sa mga katarantaduhan yung politika. Accepted pa yung kasinungalingan mo sa crime rate eh. Kasi digong yun tsaka PBBM eh. Ano yan eh, tungkol yan sa politics. Pero Supreme Court to, tanga! Grabe!
Bitcoin is the purest form of money that is sovereign to the person.
Oh, purest form of money!
Filed sila ng bagong interpretasyon ng initiate or initiation. Instead of being filed and referred, nagiging filed na lang. Even
Yun nga yung ginamot sa Francisco, tanga. Kasi nga, kapag filed, wala sa House yung kapangyarihan to initiate, kundi nasa complainant. Yun nga yung inayos sila sa Francisco. Pero may gap. Kasi there's no initiation to speak of. There's a gap. Yun yung ginamot nila ngayon. Kaya si Chis Escudero, sinasabi, you can reconcile it. It's not a contradiction.
though initiation has already been interpreted as filed and referred to the
Oh, bibigyan kita. Ha? Bibigyan kita ng analogy. Ha? Pag-usapan ulit natin yung Ten Commandments. Okay? Ito. Thou shall not murder. Okay. Question. Sinunod mo ba yon? Wag natin puntahan muna yung yung harbor hate in your heart. Wag mo tayo doon. Masyadong malala yun. Sinunod mo ba? Maraming pwedeng maraming pwedeng sumunod doon ng inaction, right? For example, a baby doesn't murder. So they follow the law. Tama? Yun ba yung gusto mo sabihin? Mali! Kaya nga ang point ni Jesus Christ, teka, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. Kasi yun yung pagsunod mo ngayon. So pag sinabi mo ngayon, sinunod ko lahat ng 10 commandments. Actually, yung 6 to 10, kaya mong gawin yun sa kulungan nung ikaw lang mag-isa. Kasi wala ka lang gagawin. A comatose na person can do that. Cannot do that. Do not. Hindi yun yung point. Kaya ang inaction can also be a violation of the law. For example, nagawa mo na ba yung love your neighbor as yourself? No? Okay. So, ibig sabihin, yung you not loving, meaning in action of loving your neighbor, is also a violation. Nagets mo? Yun yung point ng 1-year bar rule. Ganon kasimple yung logic. Hindi ibig sabihin na wala kang ginawa, a comatose, a baby, perfected the law. Why? Because thou shall not murder. Yung second tablet. Thou shall not murder. Well, I don't murder. Thou shall not lie. I cannot speak. Kaya mong gawin yan sa kulungan. Question. Punta tayo sa love your neighbor as yourself. Nagawa mo ba yan? Hindi! O violation of the law rin yun. Gets mo ba? So kapag ginamit mo yung second tablet, hindi naman ako nag-murder. Ay hindi, sabi mo wag lang mag-murder eh. Sabi mo wag lang mag-lie. Eh bakit ganyan? Alam ko na! Alam ko na! Alam ko na guys. Naalala nyo, may mga nagsasabi, binago daw ng Diyos yung commandments. Yung love God, love your neighbor as yourself. Binago daw ng Diyos yung Ten Commandments. And explain mismo ni Jesus. I think you don't get the law. As negative law itong binigay. Di ba? Thou shall not murder, thou shall not lie, thou shall not commit adultery. Ganyan-ganyan, di ba? Parang, you don't get the spirit of the Lord, dude. Ano yan? It means, love God, that's the first commandment, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the second commandment. That's it. Lahat yan ay nakapatong dyan. You don't get it. Kaya huwag mong pagmalaki na nagawa ko yung batas. I did not murder. No, not really. No, not really. Kasi double ano yan eh, edge yan eh. Okay, nagawa mo yung not murder. Pero nagawa mo ba yung love your neighbor? Hindi mo pwedeng ihiwala yun doon. Yun yung point ng 1-year bar rule. Yung inaction mismo, yun ay violation of the law. Tanga! Ganun lang kasimple, hindi mo gets? Diba? Ang basic lang, guys. Hindi ginagamot dito yung initiated. Kasi yung positive yun eh. Positive yun. Ang problema dito is yung inaction. Hindi mo pwedeng ipagmalaki na nagawa ko yung batas. I did not murder. Dude, that's not... I don't think you get it. Ang point doon is love your neighbor. That's the spirit of it. Not daw... Teka ba, why? Well, if you love your neighbor, would you murder them? Well, no. If you love your neighbor, would you commit adultery? No. Yeah! Hindi ibig sabihin hindi mo pinapatay yung kapitbahay mo is you love him. Get it? You missed the point. That's not the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is love your neighbor as yourself. Not because you did not murder your neighbor, you love him. You don't get it. Yun din yung sa 1-year bar rule. Initiated yung sinasabi mo. In action yung sinasabi ng Supreme Court. Apakadali. Bakit ba hirap na hirap ka? Oh! Pinakamababang example na lang. Sabi ng government, mag-file ka ng tax. Sabi mo, kasama naman ako sa bracket ng exempted eh. 250, 500 na ba kaya? Magagawin nyo nata 400. 250, di ba? Kasama naman ako sa 250 eh. Oo nga! Ang sabi mag-file ka. Question. ang inaction ba is violation of the law? Well, I did not file. Paano ako magkakaroon ng tax evasion? Right? Paano ako magkakaroon ng tax evasion if I did not file? You don't get it. It is what it means. You're trying to evade it. That's why you need to file. But I did not file. How can I commit tax evasion? Yeah. Yeah.
Committee on Justice for over 20 years. Malinaw po yun. So kumbaga they change the rules of the game midway or even after the fact. Pangalawa, hindi mo
Huh? Ano?
you referred to the Committee on Justice for over 20 years.
Pero ang pinasinasabi mo dyan ay ano? Initiation. Hindi nga yun yung argumento ng Supreme Court. Hindi abot ng utak mo para magets yun. There is no initiation to speak of.
Malinaw po yun. So kumbaga they change the rules of the game midway or even after the fact. Pangalawa, hindi mo talaga pwedeng sabihin na pag nag-file ng complaint, immediately na initiate ng impeachment proceedings. Bakit?
Pero gano'n yun sa mode 3.
Kasi kailangan pa yan i-verify, i-endorse, at i-refer sa Committee on Justice.
Ba't yung third mode? Hindi.
Importante yung step ng pag-refer sa Committee on Justice.
Yeah.
Dahil sa Committee on Justice titignan,
Tamo nakikita mo yung pagiging low IQ nito mga to? Busy kayo doon sa initiation, hindi nga yun yung point! Nakakainis! Pilit kayo ng pilit sa initiation! Hindi nga yun yung point ng Supreme Court! Nakakabwisit pare! Doon pa rin siya. Parang, I don't think yung inaction nga, kaya nga eh. He's missing the point.
kung may basihan ba itong impeachment complaint, and only after that, at pagkatapos narinig yung
Teka, bakit mo kailangan ng basihan ng impeachment?
refer sa Committee on Justice. Dahil sa Committee on Justice titignan kung may basihan ba itong impeachment complaint.
Yun yung due process. Okay, tama ba?
Immediately na initiate ng impeachment proceedings. Bakit? Kasi kailangan pa yan i-verify, i-endorse, at i-refer sa Committee on Justice.
Okay, yun yung due process. Okay, yun yung due process. Sige, given. Granted.
Importante yung step ng pag-refer sa Committee on Justice.
Correct, kasi yung due process nagsisilbi, right?
Dahil sa Committee on Justice titignan kung may basihan ba itong impeachment complaint.
Fita fighter, hamunin muna ng debate o boxing. Ilang beses ko nang hinahamon yan. Ba't di ikaw humamon sa akin? Pumunta ka dito sa bahay namin sa Cavite, sa Alapan. Kundi puro kabobohan sinasabi mo dyan, bobo ka, may tulo ka.
And only after that, at pagkatapos narinig yung respondent at yung mga ebidensya, then the Committee on Justice can act on it.
So ibig sabihin, yun yung due process, right? Okay, sige.
That is the time when it's actually initiated.
Okay. Yung sa ginawa naman sa fourth complaint, paano initiate? Ano initiation nun? Paano? Explain mo na nga sa kanila. Paano initiate yung initiation ng fourth complaint? Sige, paano, Kristan? Paano? Explain mo sa amin. Hindi mo kaya explain kasi mabubuko kang tanga ka.
Kung tinanggal mo yung process ng referral to the Committee on Justice, then mabilis na masabotahe yung proseso ng impeachment. At sa
Wait.
Justice, then mabilis na masabotahe yung proseso ng impeachment. At
So kapag walang Committee on Justice, madaling masabotahe yung impeachment. Kaya pala nasabotahe ngayon kasi hindi dumaan ang Committee on Justice. Huli! Buti na lang, tanga. So kaya pala nasabotahe yung fourth complaint. Bakit? Kasi hindi dumaan na Committee on Justice. Ang galing mo talaga, Kristan. Maraming salamat sa self-debunk mong tanga ka. Oo nga naman, tama nga naman siya. tama nga naman. Tama, paano?
Sa justice, initiated.
Guess mo din talagang tanga ka. Oh.
Because kung tinanggal mo yung process ng referral to the Committee on Justice, then mabilis na masabotahe yung proseso ng impeachment. At
Tama! Tama nga naman, no? Actually, dyan ako nag-a-agree sa'yo. At hindi lang yon, gumawa pa ako ng formula para dyan, ha? Oh. Ito. Oh. Ito, initiation, mode 1 is yon yung 3 impeachment complaints. Plus, Committee on Justice. Yung mode 2, yung mode 3, yung ginawa nilang yung 1/3 direct filing, nasabotahe nga kasi walang Committee on Justice. Gets ko na! Ang galing mo talaga, pare! Oh.
At sa ganun, wala na magiging accountability at malalabag na yung konstitusyon natin. Specifically,
Kaya pala nalabag. Ang galing, gagi. Kailangan ko ng part 2 dito. Kaya pala nalabag. Kasi hindi dumaan ng Committee on Justice yung 4th complaint. Kaya ngayon nalabag yung Constitution. Ganun naman pala.
accountability at malalabag na yung konstitusyon natin. Specifically, Article 11 of our Constitution, which is accountability of our public officials.
Oh, ganun. This is the purest form of process, no? Tanga talaga niyan. Nilabag malapit na deadline. Effortless ang pagdidibang. Ang dami ko pang binasa kanina, Lids. Hindi ko na pala dapat kailangan basahin yon.
Kaya sa pag-reinterpret ng ating Supreme Court netong proseso ng
Re-reinterpret daw.
Article 11 ng ating konstitusyon, their interpretation becomes
Pucha, makikita mo sa kanya, puro confidence, walang utak. Puro confidence. Kaya nga, puro confidence, oh.
The problem with this is twofold. Putting women on the spot to ask for a
Oh.
kiss isn't exactly giving them an option. In some extreme cases, particularly when the subject shows hesitation, it's the host that kisses the girl instead. Strangely,
yeah? Puro confidence, walang utak.
unconstitutional or against the Constitution. So now let's talk about yung kanilang second point, kung bakit daw unconstitutional etong impeachment ni Sara Duterte.
Sige nga.
Okay. At ang second point nila ay wala daw due process na binigay kay Sara Duterte when it comes to the impeachment.
Ikaw na rin nagsabi nun eh. Di ba sabi mo, importante yung Committee on Justice. Kasi dyan i-verify lahat dyan, preliminary dyan gagawin lahat, di ba? So, ituturo mo ba sa amin sa ng due process doon? Sige nga.
And I'm gonna refer to their own document, page
No.
78, at titignan natin from here kung tama ba sila. Alright, so this is the due process requirement. Sabi nila, besides being barred by Article 11, Section 3-5, the articles of impeachment filed via Article 11, Section 3-4 is void due to a violation of the due process law. So, 3-5 is the 1-year bar rule. And then 3-4, sinasabi niya is null and void due to the violation of the due process clause. And Section 3-4 is the section that states, in the case the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment is filed by at least 1/3 of all members of the House, the same shall constitute the articles of impeachment and the trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. So,
Okay, nasa ng due process? Ang maganda to. Kahit may Committee on Justice, di ba? Ngayon wala.
sinasabi nila na wala daw due process na nangyari dito sa Section 3-4. And sabi nila dito that due process is a requirement that must be present in the entire impeachment process. It should be present in both Article 11, Section 3-2 and Section 3-4. Remember, 3-4 is makakuha ng 1/3 signatories ng ating mga House members at dapat diretso na yan sa Senado.
Teka, asan yung Committee on Justice? Akala ko to initiate, kailangan may Committee on Justice. So, ano ba talaga, Kristan? Huwag mo kaming tulungan. Huwag mo kaming tulungan. Okay? Oh.
Yung Section 2, yun yung ipapadala pa, i-refer pa sa ating Committee on Justice.
Para sa due process, right? Ikaw nagsabi kanina. O ngayon, saan yun ngayon?
Then they go through this entire lengthy argument and discussion about due process that sa totoo lang is talking about being able to hear the respondent. This all applies primarily in Section 3-2 kung mapapadala to sa Committee on Justice. So
Wait, what? Self-defang ka dito, tanga! Self-defang ka dito, tanga! Oh, game. Whoa, back up.
Then they go through this entire lengthy argument and discussion
Wait, ano?
about due process.
Due process?
That sa totoo lang
Sa totoo lang.
is talking about being able to hear the respondent. This all applies primarily in Section 3-2 kung mapapadala to sa Committee on Justice.
Okay! Huli! Oh! So, ikaw nagsabi, pag pinadala sa Committee on Justice, yun yung due process that applies there. O ngayon, paano naman mag-a-apply doon sa 1/3 direct filing? Sige, explain mo! O, sige. Nice assist, pare. Napadala ba? O, game.
So sinasabi nila dito na kailangan daw magkaroon daw ng due process and honestly,
Which is yung Committee on Justice. Ikaw nagsabi, ha? Oh, okay.
this is how lawyers speak Yung ang dami-daming sinasabi to complicate or muddle the issue. Imbis na simplehin lang natin.
Have you talked to logicians and philosophers and mathematicians? Hindi. Problema ba nila kung bobo ka? So, kailangan nila maging thorough. Gets mo yon? Ganun lang yon. Hindi kasi yan Bitcoin. Kasi Bitcoin kasi pwede mo hulaan yan any day. Tataas, bababa. Hindi kasi Bitcoin yan. Di ba? Yung Bitcoin kasi, kailangan mo i-mine. Wala nga lang lugar kung saan mo i-mine. Sa alternate universe. Alternate world reality. Okay? It's the purest form of logic. Oh. Hindi naman kasi Bitcoin yan na bahala na. Okay?
May sinasabi to complicate or muddle the issue. Imbis na simplehin lang natin.
Simplihin lang natin, bobo ka ba? Hindi naman kasi ikaw yung recipient niyang mga decision na yan. Ang recipient niyan, yung mga law students, yung mga lawyers, nasa law profession. Yun yung recipient niyan. Papasimplihin? Ano ka?
Labag ba
Ano ka, Bitcoin?
to complicate or muddle the issue. Imbis na simplehin lang natin. May nilabag ba na due process dun sa sinasabi nilang argumento nila when it comes to Section 3-4? Yung pagpirma ng ating mga kongresista na dumiretso na
Yeah. Okay.
sa Senado
This is
yung
good.
articles
This is
of
good.
impeachment. So we'll just go directly to that clause. Kasi ito yung pumasa na complaint, yung fourth impeachment complaint na tinransmit sa ating Senado. Kaya ito yung focus natin.
Okay, very good.
So
Very
due
good.
process requirement in
Tandaan nyo may formula ako dito Ito yung mode 1. Yung may Committee on Justice. Tingnan natin kung nasan to dun sa mode na yan. Sa fourth impeachment. Sige.
Article 11, Section 3-4. So sinabi nila dito na may presumption of innocence daw. Of course, there's a presumption of innocence. I agree. And then
You don't. Tingnan mo na lang yung mga content mo
sinabi din nila dito, paramount daw ang Constitution as the fundamental and paramount law of the land. Agree. Tapos sinabi din dito that impeachment is bound by the constitutional restraints and fundamental rights. Yes, I agree. Walang problema doon. Tapos sinabi din dito that there's a presumption of innocence demanded by the due process clause of the Constitution.
Sabi mo kanina sa Justice Committee, doon mapakinggan dapat doon si VP Sara. Pero dito,
Absolutely, and it protects every accused from conviction. Yes. And due process is essentially a party's right to be heard or to be given the opportunity to defend their interest in due course. So then they gave examples. Itong binigyan lang example. Si Ang Tibay versus the Court of Industrial Relations. Yan, tapos sinabi dito that the purpose of the guarantee is to prevent arbitrary governmental encroachment against life, liberty, and property of individuals.
Simplihin natin, Associate Justice Cristan.
Kaya may due process kasi nga daw, it protects the individual.
Sino ba siya para kailangan niya mag-agree? Bitcoin guru to. Ay. No, Atty. Limayan. Bitcoin guru yan.
Na may arbitrary government action that takes life, liberty, and the property of the
Sige na, argumento na!
ng liberty or ng mga kanyang ari-ari.
Asa na?
This does not apply.
Ano
Pero
na?
ay, ng liberty or ng mga kanyang ari-arian si Sara Duterte. So, walang kwenta itong pinagsasabi nila
Eh, wala siya
dito,
compression.
this does not apply. Pero
Hindi mo ba alam yung, ano? May procedural due process din? Alam mo ba?
again, this is what you call legalese, mentioning so many things at Sara Duterte, the individual. In the case of impeachment, hindi naman matatanggalan ng buhay, ng liberty, or ng mga kanyang ari-arian si Sara Duterte.
So, may decision din yan dito eh. Saan malaki? Dito ba yun? Hindi niya alam property ang work. Kaya nga. Paano hindi? Impeach niyo, mawawalan ng job. Job is property, bobo. Hindi. Teka lang. Meron pa dito, may maganda ditong sinabi yung sa concurring ba yun? Bagal ah. Nagugulo na ako kay Tris. So ang problema, teka. Teka.
Individual. In the case of impeachment, hindi naman matatanggalan ng buhay, ng liberty, or ng mga kanyang ari-arian si Sara Duterte.
Teka. Sige, i-grant ko muna yan for now. May tanong lang ako sa'yo. Paano siya na-afford ng due process? Sasabi mo kasi, yung due process kasi nag-a-apply lang yan doon sa mga ari-arian, life and liberty, right? Okay. Paano siya in-afford ng due process? Sabi mo kasi kanina, sa Justice on Committee on Justice, doon yung due process, doon i-verify lahat, right? Yun yung sabi mo kanina eh. Gusto mo ba i-rewind pa natin? O sige.
So, kasi nga daw, it protects the Ang Tibay versus the court and they be host from conviction. Yung sinabi din dito, and agree. Of course, there's a presumption of innocence. Ito yung focus natin. So, due process requirement in Article 11, Section 3-4. So, sinabi nila dito na may presumption of innocence daw. Of course, there's a presumption of innocence. I agree. And then, pirma ng ating mga kongresista to complicate or muddle this to kung mapapadala to sa Committee on Justice. Action about due process. Through this entire lengthy argument and discussion about due process, that sa totoo lang is talking about being able to hear the respondent. This all applies primarily in Section 3-2.
Okay. Sabi mo, due process, being heard, at saka nag-a-apply din sa first mode, tama?
Mapapadala to sa Committee on Justice.
Okay. Heard. Tama. Sabi mo, ulitin natin. Kasi huli ka rin sa sarili mong bibig eh.
So, about due process.
Okay.
That sa totoo lang is Senado. Yung Section 2, yun yung ipapadala pa, i-refer pa sa ating Committee on Justice.
Okay. Yun yung mode 1, yung sa first 3 complaints. Okay? Yun. Tapos i-explain mo ano yung due process doon?
Then they go through this entire lengthy argument and discussion about due process that sa totoo lang is talking about being able to hear the respondent. This all applies primarily in Section 3-2.
Okay, sabi mo nag-a-apply doon. Sa una. Bakit hindi pwede mag-apply sa pangalawa? Bakit hindi? Doon pa lang huli ka na eh. Sinungaling ka eh.
Kung mapapadala to sa Committee on Justice.
Oh, sa Committee on Justice pala mangyayari yung due process. Ano ba yung ginagawa doon? Sabi mo kayo to be heard. Right to be heard, right? Okay? O ngayon, nasan yun sa pangalawa?
So,
Bakit? Hindi naman tungkol sa ano yun, di ba? Kasi sa argumento mo, hindi naman yung liberty, hindi naman yung property, hindi naman yung life. Right? Okay. Okay. Tanggalin natin yun. Yun din ba yun? Yung to be heard, life, property, and ano? Yun din ba yun? O hindi? O di pahiya ka. So, kailangan mo maging equal ngayon. Kung heard dito, heard din dito sa kabila. Tama?
sinasabi nila dito na kailangan daw magkaroon daw ng due process. And honestly, this is how lawyers speak eh. Yung,
wala na. O, sasabihin tayo.
If linad, si Sara Duterte ng party of the individual. In the case of impeachment, hindi naman matatanggalan ng buhay, ng liberty, or ng mga kanyang ari-arian.
Eh bakit sabi mo kanina magkakaroon ng problema doon sa kung di ano ng Committee on Justice? Doon magkakaloko-loko, right? Labo-labo na. Ay dapat tanggalin na yung Committee on Justice sa sa una. Sa filing na lang. Di ba? Tamo nakita niyo yung double standard niya. Makita mo talaga yung pagiging Dunning-Kruger eh. Sabi mo lang kanina, heard. Sa Committee on Justice kasi kapag na-refer, yun yung mode 1. Okay? Sabi mo yun yung due process doon. Bakit mo babaguhin yung due process dito sa sumunod? Eh, impeachment din naman yun Bakit mo binago ngayon? Oh.
Si Sara Duterte. So, walang kwenta itong pinagsasabi nila dito. This does not apply. Pero,
dahil?
Again, this is what you call legalese. Mentioning so many things that are not completely related to the issue.
Ikaw yung... Paano hindi related? Ikaw na nga nagsabi kanina, tanga ka. Hindi ba yung first mo, dini-refer sa Committee on Justice, doon na ayusin, doon i-verify, doon to be heard. Tama. Okay, nasan yun sa mode na yan? Sa 1/3 direct filing. Nasaan yun? Ang hina nito.
It is somewhat related indirectly, but not directly
Directly ang due process sa lahat ng bagay.
improving
Kaya nga sabi ng korte, parang ilagay mo sa consciousness mo eh. Kasi it's not optional.
the case they're trying to make. So sinabi nila dito in page 83, ang tibay outlined the following cardinal primary rights that must be respected even in an administrative proceedings. Okay. The first of these rights is the right to a hearing, which includes the right of the party interested or affected to present his case and submit evidence in support thereof. So yan sinasabi na kailangan masundan yan. Masusundan ba yan? Yes. Kasi po, kaya nga may trial sa Senado.
Oy, bakit may Justice ng Committee doon sa unahan? Meron naman pala sa trial. Bobo!
Oy, naririto ako, sheepdog na laging handa, kalmado, totoo, sa gitna ng ingay at bulong-bulungan. Tahimik akong nakatingin, may tiyak na patnubay.